Hear now the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Glory
to you, O Lord.
On the same day as Jesus' resurrection, two of his disciples were going to a village called Emmaus. It was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking to each other about everything that had happened. And while they were talking, Jesus approached them and began walking with them. Although they saw him, they did not recognize him. And he asked them, "What are you discussing?" They stopped and looked very sad. And one of them, Cleophas, replied, "Are you the only one in Jerusalem who does not know what has happened recently?" "What happened?" he asked. So they said to him, "We were discussing what happened to Jesus from Nazareth. He was a powerful prophet in what he did and said in the sight of God and of all people. Our chief priests and rulers had him condemned to death and crucified. We were hoping that he was the one who would free Israel. What's more, this is now the 3rd day since everything happened." Some of the women from our group startled us. They went to the tomb early this morning and didn't find him in it. They told us that they had seen angels who said he's alive, and some of our men went to the tomb and found it empty, as the women had said, but they did not see him. Then Jesus said to them, "How foolish you are. You're so slow to believe everything the prophets said. Didn't the Messiah have to suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then he began with Moses' teaching and the prophets to explain to them what was said about him throughout the scriptures. And when they came near the village where they were going, Jesus acted as if he was going on farther, and they urged him, "Stay with us. It's getting late. The day is almost over." So he went and stayed with them. While he was at the table with them, he took bread and blessed it. He broke the bread and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Weren't we excited when he talked with us on the road and opened up the meaning of the scriptures for us?" And that same hour they went back to Jerusalem. They found the 11 apostles and those who were with them gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has really come back to life and has appeared to Simon." So the two disciples told what had happened on the road and how they had recognized Jesus when he broke the bread. This is the gospel of our Lord, and together we say,
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. If the young people come on. Everybody doing okay today? Awesome. So we talked about this a little bit before, but I'm going to ask you a little bit different today. When big, it's hard to understand who God is. Because we understand that God is everywhere at the same time. But God hears everything at the same time, but knows it came from any one of us. And then, this prayer, this psalm that maybe King David wrote way back in the day, way long before Jesus, this basically says that when we talk to God, it's a two-way street. When we talk with God, to God, then God's going to answer us back. But it's not going to be like, God's not going to come and whisper in your ear and tell you what the answer is. It's not exactly the way it works. Okay? But if we look around us sometimes, and let's say that it was somebody who's not doing well, and you want something to get better. As you see something happen to them, then that's a way in which right, the way God answers. If you see somebody having trouble at school, and you pray that maybe things get better for them, and you see things start to get a little bit better, that's the two-way street. We talk to God. And we have to be able to be patient and look for ways in which God can help us. And a lot of times when we ask for happens, but here's the thing. Sometimes when we pray to God and we ask for something to happen, it doesn't happen exactly the way that we ask it. So we have to be able to look to see if it happened a little bit differently. And then understand that that's the way that God needs it to happen. But the understanding is it's a two-way street. When we talk to God, God's going to answer it. We have to be patient enough and smart enough to look around to see how God's going to answer. That's what we're learning today in Scripture. Okay? God, we thank you that you have told us that you're always listening. Help us to be patient enough to find out how you respond when we talk to you. Help us to always trust that you're here listening and ready to help. Pray in your holy name and we say, Amen. Thanks. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father and the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Well, I love the story of the road of Emmaus. It's something that many of us have heard over and over again. And, you know, as you peel off many layers of an onion, you know, as you peel back what the text has to say, the Spirit can give us new things to understand about where the text is going. And so, one of the things that I believe we can get out of this text is the idea that we can sometimes forget, not be aware that God is right here, right with us, walking with us. We can just block everything out, even if we're supposedly doing it for a good reason. Those two apostles walking down that road to Emmaus, deep in conversation, as the story lets us know. And as Jesus caught up to them, he became part of the conversation. Day of the resurrection, 3 days after the crucifixion. The story tells us that they understood when people went to the tomb that Jesus wasn't there. So they're talking about all this stuff, and they're swimming in the emotions of the time, and they're trying to make sense of it all. But they're not aware that the one that they're talking about is right there, right with them. I think one of the things we can walk away from is this text clearly indicates for us how we need to be sensitive to whose we are and what God might be trying to say to us at any time of the day, 365 days a year. Many times the church, the leadership, has tried to make sense of who God is, and sometimes it's been at the expense of God. You've heard me preach before that since Jesus' death and resurrection, followers were gathered. Every 500 years, the understanding of the way of Jesus, people who follow what Jesus had to say, is undergone a reformation, a reformation. We talked about this. And we're currently celebrating the third Reformation, the one that Martin Luther kicked off. Trying to go back to ground. Trying to get back to who Jesus is and what he said, and not what we think he said and what we think we want Jesus to have said. These are things that we can take away from the scripture today. Being open to who God really is and not who we want God to be. God is about love and grace and mercy. We talk about that all the time. And how that's for everyone, without exception everywhere. One of the things that I love about the expression of our denomination, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, is that our denomination has been struggling to be open to what God is saying now since its inception. There have been many ways in which the church has reached out so that the congregations as a whole can participate in understanding the expression of love in its breadth and depth, which is why in our understanding today, women are pastors. They're not excluded. Also that all expressions of sexual identity are included and are not accepted. Even in pastors, we will call pastors who have different understandings than they have had in the past for their sexual identification. Because we understand that God's love is not exclusive. It is inclusive. That all people have been begotten by God. We are the created of God, and God has not made, as some of the little funky sayings go, God has not made junk. God has only breathed life into the world. And so, what Jesus had to say was about grace and mercy in its widest expression. And so, the cautionary tale of the road to Emmaus is to be careful of how we follow that love and grace and are open to what God is doing with that all the time. Because sometimes God may want to lead us down a path that we wouldn't have thought of. Because maybe we're thinking about another path. And we need to be open to where that's going. My life is a tale about that. Following a life of engineering for 24 years. And then, whoops, no more engineering, and here I am in ministry. And that's happened to countless people who have been in the ministry too. Second career pastors who have done all kinds of different things, and God has picked them up and moved them because they were willing to listen to that voice that's walking by our side. Willing to take the hand of the one who is trying to lead us, and not trying to make up life's path on our own. But it's hard. It's hard because there are lots of voices speaking in our ears. Sometimes it's our spouses, sometimes it's our children, sometimes it's extended members of our family, or our neighbors, or even those of us in our congregation. There are different ways in which people can want us to walk, preferences for how they want us to act. And that's fine, and people want to have opinions, but we need to understand and look to things being grounded in grace and mercy and let that be the final say in our lives for how we're going to conduct ourselves and what we're going to look at doing. God cannot be put in a box. God is who God is. God is way bigger than our understanding. And this was proven to the max with Jesus. And him blowing away his disciples by saying he's going to have to die, and then doing it in front of them. The story that we have for the sacrifice. And then the resurrection, and him not being in the tomb, and they're like, he's not there. But then he said he wasn't going to be there. Their mind is being blown again. God is right here. Do we trust that? Are we open to that? As I talk with the young people, are we willing to have that conversation, have that two-way conversation? Are we willing to talk with God from the bottom of our hearts, to express what's on our minds, and then to be willing to be patient, to look for the response, the way in which it plays out? That may not be the way in which we think it should, but the way in which God can work it. Are we willing to let God be the one in charge of us and not us being in charge of us? reason we don't see more people in church today, because a lot of people want to do their own thing. Some people just can't let go. And we see the results in broken lives, train wrecks of expressions of how they deal with each other. And as I've said before, that's why we have so much strife in our world today. The story today is about that love that continues to follow us, even when we're not open to what it is. That's willing to reach out and touch us. How Christ is manifested for us in our presence all the time. In the translation for today, when Jesus was recognized, it said, and weren't we excited when he was with us? And some of the translations, weren't our ears burning when he was talking with us? Are our ears burning? Are we excited when we encounter the grace that is God? Are we joyful that we're not left alone? Hopefully the answer to all of that is yes. And that when we come to the table, we see the Christ, as the disciples did in the breaking of the bread, and the blessing of the blood and the wine. And then we can take this to our refreshment so that we can evermore stay awake. The peeling of the onion, the understanding of God's will for us today. Pray all these things in Jesus' name. We say